Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Cape Town. I'm hoping that for you, the rest of the country also has wonderful sunshine before we start with our cooler autumn weather. So this morning we're starting with a creative offering from Sanelisiwe Mia. I hope she's on. Sunny, are you ready to do your creative offering for us?
Hello? Can you hear
Hello?
me?
Yes, absolutely.
I am ready, but I've got an entire team who's going to do it with me. So
Fantastic.
it's not myself that's speaking. So the first person to actually go up will be Gosinati.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Over to you.
Is Nkosinati in the room? I don't see him.
Sane, is everyone here that needs to be here for your creative offering? Or would you like us to do the program overview first?
Please go ahead with the program overview. I'm also just trying to get Gosinati on the phone.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you. So Chanel, let's share our program and then we'll do the creative offering after that. Okay, so here we are. It's day 2 and our theme is caring for self and teams. And this is what our program looks like. We have lots of parallel, well, 2 sets of parallel sessions today. So if we can just see the program, Chanel, thank you. Next slide. Okay, we'll come back to the check-in round in a few minutes. So this is what our day looks like. We are going to start with some spoken word performance by Sane and her group. And then we will do our reflective learning and check in small groups again. And then we've got 2 big sessions with themes of how we are, session 3, and then a tea break, and then we've got where we are, and that's session 4. So for session 3, we've got 4 parallel sessions with 4 different offerings. We've got Jenny Kanau, who is doing a short resilience and mindfulness practice session. Then we've got Dr. Makati Mokwena, who is doing a ritual and ceremony in challenging time session. Then we've got Ilse Alkes doing the weaving healing words, a restoration through creative writing. And then I will be doing one on setting creative intention in uncertain times. So then we will have a tea break, and after the tea break, we will go into the session 4, which is all about looking at our current context, so where we are. So for that session, we have 4 offerings, and that is about working virtually, all the experiments of working virtually, trials and joys and tribulations. We've got leadership in institutions in the time of COVID. We've got holding space, restorative conversations about our current realities at work, and then we've got risks to our collection. So each of those sessions have different facilitators leading and will be happening in different rooms. So I'm going to ask Chanel, can you do all the tech input now, please, and just explain to everybody about the Zoom links. Thanks, Chanel.
Morning, everyone. So I'll just explain to you how the different links work. The most important link is the link that you joined with this morning and you join with every day. And also, after your parallel sessions, you'll come to the main Zoom room, which we call this room, or the main forum room. So always keep that link handy. And then, so I think I'll just explain until after the tea break, and then for the rest of the day, we'll explain after the tea break because it is quite a lot to remember. So after this opening session, you will leave this Zoom meeting, you'll close it, and you'll take the link for your parallel session, and you'll join that parallel session Zoom meeting. After that parallel session, you'll go to a tea break. And when your tea break is finished, you'll come back to this main room. And that's it for this morning. And then after tea, we'll explain again. Now, I'm going to post the parallel session links in the chat again for you. So if you haven't managed to register for a session, just go do that now. And then you'll get a link in your inbox to join that parallel session. Thank you.
Good. Okay, thanks. Are there any questions?
Yes, if I may, it's Helen. I registered yesterday and I didn't get any links by email.
For which session did you register? Oh, that's one thing that I didn't mention. Sorry about that. So there's one session, Jenny's session, which stays in the main room. So you guys don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Leave the room. You just stay in the main room. That session will be in the main room.
All right. Thank you. I didn't get links to the others either, but that's fine for now. Maybe they're all in the main room.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Good.
Maybe can I just respond to Helen?
Yes.
So I also struggled to get the links. So Helen, if you just register again, you go to that register link and you can register again. Or if it's time for the session and you've already registered, you just click on that registration link, that same registration link, and it automatically takes you to Zoom. It doesn't ask you to register again. So you can just use the same link.
Okay. So someone's asking in the chat, so if you didn't get the email, you stay in this meeting. So I would, yeah, Chanel?
No, so it depends. So if you registered for Jenny's session, then you stay in this room. If you registered for other sessions and you didn't get an email, as Ian says, just go register again, please. There might have been a glitch with sending you the email.
Or if there's still no email, when it's time for the session, just click on that link and it'll take you into the session on that same registration link. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Fuller says check your spam folder, just in case you didn't see it. Okay. And Chanel, are you going to post the links in the chat as well?
I will, yes.
Okay. Right. So we're trying everything to make sure that you will receive that link. Okay. Somebody was saying hi. Go ahead.
Hi, Desiree. I'm
Hi,
Jenny.
welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to say good morning to everyone and just say I'm looking forward to doing the resilience and the mindfulness, whoever is going to stay on for that. I'm really looking forward to that session. So hello from me.
Hi, Jenny, and welcome. You're most
Thank
welcome.
you.
Great. Okay, wonderful. Right, so there we are. I think I don't see any more questions. Okay. Right, so are we ready for our creative offering? Are we ready for the creative offering? Sanelisiwe?
I'm ready.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm just waiting for Ulu to share the screen, please.
Thank you. Over to you, Sunny. Thanks for offering to do this.
Sorry, can you give me a minute?
We'd just like everybody to see it as well, that's all.
Do you mind starting while I'm preparing for this?
Daniel, go right ahead.
What if it's just nature? Done. I did.
Taking back control, questioning the actions of every living soul.
What if it's just nature?
Asking us to stop, to think about the planet and treasures that we've got.
What if it's just nature?
Slowing us right down. Time to look around us and see what can be found.
What if it's just nature?
Asking us to think, what is it that we really need? Love, health, and food and drink.
What if it's just nature?
Giving us the time to be more understanding, generous, and kind.
What if it's just nature?
Should I take over from there? Asking us to care, to think about each other, and sometimes just to be there.
What if it's just nature?
Sending us this pain, time to reevaluate before we're all insane.
What if it's just nature?
Setting us a test to try to save our planet. Let us do our very best.
What if it's just nature?
And that's it. That's the poem on the screen. The poem was by Julie Sheldon, and I chose to share this with you guys because I think it's very much in line with a lot of what people were feeling during lockdown. That it can't be that just such a thing just happens out of nowhere. A number of people are feeling maybe Mother Nature is rebelling, you know, and it's causing us, you know, to take some time out and reevaluate not only our individual selves, but our actions, not only towards the planet itself, but towards each other as humans. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much. Thanks, Sanelisiwe.
And thank you to the team. And thank you to the team. Thank you so much, guys. I now would like to just do a little exercise with you. Fulu, are you ready to share that screen?
Just direct me on which screen that is.
No, just the slides presentation.
Okay, yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're seeing the last slide.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. this correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just keep on asking you to move to the next slide because I don't want to take long. Guys, I was asked to do a small spoken word little, I don't know, presentation at the beginning of this, which what we just did would have encompassed, you know, that, I guess, but it didn't necessarily speak to our feelings, which I just wanted to take a little bit more time to delve a little bit, you know, deeper into. So I just put together these slides and I just want to take you through them as fast as I can. So it's basically about self-care and more importantly about your own feelings. So Fulu, if you could go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to show you here that there are 7 pillars of self-care. You know, there's more to self-care than, you know, the bathtub soaps that, you know, everybody advertises and facials and manicures, coffee and a good book, you know, that we think of when we think of self-care. There's way more to that, as you can see. But that's not where we are. We are talking specifically about feelings this morning. Could you please go into the next slide? Okay. So a lot of us that comprise society, as it were, are very much able to control our emotions most of the time. But when we encounter times of uncertainty, you know, that has a way of peeling away that layer of calm and exposing our fears. And the uncertainty that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought, you know, with the high death tolls, lockdown, and the many ramifications thereof, have managed to bring entire countries to their knees. Imagine what it has done to the individual person. I put down there the types of basic emotions that anybody can feel. You know, we guys, you know, we run the whole gamut. And a lot of us have been in the states of anger and fear and depression and the likes during this lockdown because of that uncertainty. We no longer our normal bubbly selves, or, you know, controlled selves, you know, knowing how it is that you need to present yourself, you know, to society. So in order to get back to ourselves, as we would describe it, many of us sought out, you know, spiritual guidance. Some took the time to understand themselves better. You know, you are sitting at home, you're doing nothing. Many felt it was nature fighting back and saw the need to treat it better, you know, once normalcy returned, hence the poem that we just shared with you guys. But like I said, today I'd like to talk to you more about your feelings and, more importantly, the importance of accepting and processing them so that you can best figure out what it is that they're trying to tell you and for you to act on that. And in that picture that I shared there, the one most important thing that I want to share with you is I want you to look at the difference between anger and happiness. Don't we all know what that feeling is like? You know, when you're angry and you feel your head is hot and you've got steam coming out your ears, and you know how, you know, that's your basic feeling of anger. But look at how beautiful happiness looks. It's all consuming. It flows through your whole body. Your whole body reaps the benefits, you know, of feeling happy. If you could please share the next slide. So more than anything, this is what I wanted to share with you guys today. How are you feeling in this current moment? Just have a listen, give yourself time to have a listen to your emotions. When you feel bitterness, you know, it shows you where you need to heal, where you're still holding judgment on others and yourself. I want to just go down to shame, because I think a lot of us have had to deal with shame, you know, at one time or another. You know, shame shows you that you're internalizing other people's beliefs about who you should be or who you are, and that you need to reconnect with yourself. I'm running down to shame because I believe that's the one thing that I want everyone today to have as their takeaway, because many of us feel this emotion and we don't understand why, and we don't understand what it is that it's trying to tell us. And the minute that you can break free from that, oh my God, the wonders that await, you know, your life, both shame and fear. You know, we can go back to resentment. If you're feeling these feelings of resentment, It shows that you're living in the past and you're not allowing your present to be as it should be. Are you feeling a sense of discomfort? That means that right in this moment, you should be paying attention to what is happening, because you've been given the opportunity to change. Do something different than how you would typically do it. Are you feeling anger? That's because you're passionate about something, and you know where your boundaries are and what you believe in and what you believe needs to change about the world. Are you feeling a sense of disappointment? Well, that shows that you tried for something, that you didn't give into apathy, and that you still care. That's a good thing, though, So why allow yourself, to feel negative about what we deem as a negative perception? I mean, as a negative emotion. Guilt. Are you feeling a sense of guilt? It helps you to understand that it helps you to understand the person that you don't want to be. It gives you the opportunity to forgive yourself in order to move on. Just yesterday, I had a moral dilemma. There was the option of doing something wrong that was going to benefit me, or the option of, not doing it right then, because it means, even though it means waiting and saving and all of that, but that makes me feel better about myself. And the guilt that would have followed, oh my God. And then sadness, it shows you the depth of your feeling. It shows you the depth of your care for others in the world. So the whole point of this slide is to help you in processing your emotions, and to understand that just feeling down, as we would put it, is not a bad thing at all. So long as you understand where the down is coming from and what that emotion actually is and what it is trying to tell you, and for you to then act on it, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself. And almost like as a parting slide, I wanted to share something I shared with my KZN team. This is something that you find on the internet everywhere. I actually went on the internet 3 nights ago trying to find an actual source, to reference somebody. But almost everybody has this on their meditative or such and such websites. So they asked a shaman, and I don't know if you know, a shaman is like a Native American sangoma, basically. Yeah. And they normally advisors to chiefs as well. But they asked the shaman, so they're very wise people is my point. They asked the shaman, what is poison? Anything beyond what we need is poison. It can be power, laziness, food, ego, ambition, vanity, fear, anger, or whatever. So long as it is more than what we need, it is poison. What is fear? It is the non-acceptance of uncertainty. If we accept uncertainty, it becomes adventure. I always share the story of myself and Ryan Brigvik getting lost in Richards Bay. I will never forget what we did. We were truly and utterly lost. But he was like, oh, okay, paid for trip. It is a paid, it's paid for sightseeing. We were supposed to be going on a trip for work, and we managed to get lost, and his outlook, his perspective at the time was, instead of freaking out about the fact that we lost, sorry, I'm so sorry, Fulu, you can move on to the next slide. I'm so sorry. Instead of being, thank you. Instead of being mad or upset or panicky over the fact that we were lost, he was more excited about the fact that we were going to sightsee. We're going to see places that we wouldn't have seen had we just kept on course. And there you go. If you accept uncertainty, it becomes adventure. What is envy? It's the non-acceptance of good in another person. The minute you accept that there is good in that person, it becomes inspiration. And I think a lot of us need to hear this. When you envy the person, it does come from a negative, place, and you want what they have, for yourself. But if you, and maybe a feeling of that they don't deserve to be having that. But if you see what they have as something that they worked for and they deserve because there is good in them, what they have then becomes inspiration for you to do and try and achieve as well. And what is anger? It is non-acceptance of what is beyond our control. If we accept that, then it becomes tolerance. And what is hate? It is non-acceptance of people as they are. If we accept unconditionally, then that becomes love. And we could all choose to spend our days in fear and dread, but wouldn't it be so much better if all of us chose to plan for better days ahead with goodness in our hearts and hope that things will actually always work out for the best? Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you, Sunny. Thanks for that. Thanks for ending on that note of love. Really appreciate that. Okay, great. So now we are going to move into our small groups, check-in groups. So I'm just going to ask Chanel to put the check-in slide back up. Thank you. So in this session, it's groups of, I think let's do groups of 3, Chanel, just so that we have you know, enough time for people to check in. So again, just do your name, your role, your institution, and then from yesterday, you can share anything, a new learning, an insight, a question that arose for you. And then what did yesterday reveal about how we are caring and sharing as a network? Okay, so those are the 3 prompts. And again, can somebody take notes in your group? And when we come back, we'll ask you to just pop that into the chat. And we won't have time to hear from each group, but we hope that you will be able to have a good connecting time. So once again, when you see the pop-up, can you please join that group and not stay in the main room, because we really want you to connect with your colleagues. Okay, so you'll see a pop-up coming on your screen and it will say join breakout, and just click join and you will find yourself in a small group with 3 people. Okay, great. So Chanel, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm opening the rooms now. Please do click on the pop-up as Des says, otherwise we're going to stay in the main room.
So I see some people are still in the room. You need to join the breakout group so that you find yourself with a small group. Otherwise, there might be someone sitting out there alone. So please join. If you see the pop-up on your screen, there shouldn't be any participants left in the main room right now. So we're having small groups of 3 checking in into small groups. Okay, for those who may have joined late.
Okay, I've just reassigned those people that haven't joined.
Okay.
Let's hope they go.
Okay.
Morning, Lemmy.
Are you happy to hang out here, or would you like to join a small group? Chanel can send you to a small group. You're on mute.
Morning, Isa.
Morning.
Yeah, I was saying that I'm not sure if I'll be able to catch up. Otherwise, I'm happy to hang on here until we are all there.
There's a good 5, 6, or 7 minutes left to maybe meet a new colleague.
Okay.
If you're willing to go, Chanel, if you're willing to offer Lemmy, we're only coming back at 1:45, so there's still time to maybe meet 2 new colleagues.
Okay.
I've assigned you, Lemmy. You'll get a pop-up.
Okay, thanks, Chanel.
Okay.
So to those colleagues who have just joined, I see there's about 2 or 3 colleagues that have just joined, just to say that we're in small groups, but we're going to be coming back in the next 5 minutes or so. If you want to join a small group, Chanel can reassign you. There's still 5 minutes to meet 1 or 2 new colleagues. The whole point would be to network and to meet new colleagues. So if you're keen to join a small group, even just for these last few minutes, please just quickly put your video on, or just give us a thumbs up reaction or something like that, and Chanel can reassign you for these last few minutes.
Ilse, you're on mute.
Thanks, Des. Chanel, Nokotulu indicated that she'd be keen to just for the last few minutes go meet some colleagues. If you could allocate her.
Okay, I'm just trying to find her on the list, and then I'll do that.
And Norma as well. Norma Mkize is also keen just for the last few minutes.
Oh, sorry, I see it looks like they're not coming up on the list of breakaways.
Okay.
Well,
we've just got 3 or so minutes left. So maybe we need to miss out on this occasion, on this opportunity. So Norma and Nokutula, sorry about that. Hopefully we will have time this afternoon to do a checkout. No, we're not actually doing small group checkouts today, Des. We're not actually, I don't think, hey? So tomorrow morning, so tomorrow morning will be another opportunity to meet some colleagues in the check-in. Because I think in the next 2 or 3 minutes, Chanel will start bringing everybody back. So to the new colleagues that have joined, I think Michelle, I think Maggie, morning Isabel, nice to see you.
Hi Isabel.
Morning. I managed to at last join.
Welcome. We're just in small groups for another minute and then we're coming back to the main room.
Yes, me and Natasha was in a group.
Okay.
The 2 of us was a group.
Oh,
so
okay.
We have a text. Yes, I wasn't here yesterday, but she pulled me in.
Okay. We acknowledged you yesterday, Isabel, when we did our panel sharing.
Okay.
We were sad that you weren't with us, but we had a beautiful, beautiful storytelling from the colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did watch the YouTube video link that you sent. So, but it didn't contain all the information, but it was interesting. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close the rooms.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So Chanel, I'm just going to tell them to write what emerged from the sharing into the chat, and then you can start with your video, and I'll say that we're starting with an introductory video, and then we'll go into the other Zoom rooms, the next session. Yeah.
Okay. When I do start the video, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see and
okay.
hear?
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, sure. Okay, so welcome back. I think we're still waiting for more, right? So those who've come back, if you can please put into the chat what has emerged from your small groups. So hopefully someone in your small group has taken notes about the themes emerging. So please put that in the chat. We won't have time to hear from every group. Okay. So please put in the chat what has emerged from your small group, and then we're going to move on to our next session. Okay, hope you had a good connection in your small group and hope that you met some new people. That's great. I see someone has put in the chat already. Thanks, Fulu. Can others also just put into the chat what has come out from your small group? Great. Okay. Wonderful. So we're about to move into our next session, which is how we are. That's the theme. And we will be moving into 4 separate Zoom rooms.
Sorry, Desiree.
Yes.
I switched on to the other group. I was linked to group 32, but I couldn't participate, not at all.
Oh, okay. Don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. Sorry about that. I think there might be some glitches if other people don't join. That is why we encourage everyone to join a room, because otherwise if you don't, it might mean someone is alone. So sorry about that, Luvuyo.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay. So we're going to move on now. And as I was saying, this is the next session is how we are. We are going to have 4 parallel sessions. And before we go there, Chanel is going to play us a video that contextualizes, you know, where we find ourselves today and what we've just come through in terms of our context. So Chanel, over to you. I can see the video, Chanel. You can play.
Okay,
yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chanel, for that video. So on that note, receiving all that was, we are going into 4 parallel sessions to see how we are. So how are we doing? How are we in this time? And we've got 4 beautiful offerings. Chanel, you've put the links in again, right? So I'm wondering if we shouldn't put the links again for those who joined late. Maybe just put it in the chat. So you would have either received the link or you've already joined and registered. If you haven't done that, please do that now. And then you'll find yourself in a new room. So you have to actually leave this room, click leave, the red button at the bottom, and you will be out of this room. And then you have to join a new link. And those are the 4 parallel sessions. You have 4 options and you can go anywhere that you like. Okay, so thanks everyone. Are there any questions before we move?
Yes, please, Desiree.
Yes.
It's we heard in the beginning that if you in the one for mindfulness, it stays in the forum room. So do you still have to leave and rejoin, or just stay? Right.
You stay. Thanks, Helen. Thanks for that reminder. Okay. So if you didn't receive the link, that means you remain in the main room with Jenny. Jenny's session stays here. For the rest of you, if you have joined any of the other sessions, you please click leave. Okay, so that will include myself and Ilse because we are facilitating other sessions. Okay, so have a great time, everyone. Enjoy. I'm going to leave now and join my group and looking forward to meeting some of you there. Okay, thank you.
Same here. I'm also leaving to join my group. Looking forward to seeing some of you there. Have fun, everybody.
We do, and as we find out how much time we have, it would be really wonderful if you can just think for a moment what you mean or you think by the word resilience. And I'd really love to know that. So if you could just write that down on the chat group, and people can just write whatever they think resilience is. It gives us a really good indicator of what people are thinking, and it doesn't have to be right or wrong, just what you know, have you heard this word before? What does it mean? What are the possibilities? That would be really exciting to find out. So someone says being tough, lasting under pressure. Yes. Never giving up. Wonderful. Wow. Knowing when you recover quickly from something bad. Yes. Bouncing back to your normal state. Yes. Ability to recover. Toughness. Bouncing back. A lot of bouncing. Being thick-skinned, that's an interesting one. Bouncing back, capable of bouncing back, ability to recover, tenacity, wonderful, to make it through. Wow, staying the course, ability to endure, to stand the challenges. I think everyone knows. Wonderful. So hands up. Everyone seems to know the concept and the idea. Hands up on who knows through your own life experience, how you do it. Because that's really the important part. You know, we all have this natural ability to be resilient, to bounce back from difficulty. The previous presenter, Sane, was talking about all these emotions, but do we know how to bounce back? Do we know how to regulate our emotions? Because we do. And this session is really about connecting with that, our natural ability to bounce back and to think about how we do it. Having a strong mindset, someone says, wonderful. So what I'm going to do is, even before Ian comes up, I'm going to do a short resilience practice with you, because the most important thing is the action, how to actually become resilient. And what I'll do after that is I'll explain a little bit about resilience, the science behind it. So what's wonderful is it's very empowering to know how it works and the science and neuroscience behind it, how the nervous system works. But the actual practice is the most important. Yes, it's still coming on. Resilience, flexibility, being of strong faith. Absolutely. So we can rely on you know, lots of different things to motivate us. So in terms of our own spiritual growth, in terms of our own capacity, and And here today, what I'm going to present to you is an approach more based on science, an approach based on your nervous system, how to actually regulate your nervous system so you can be resilient. So what I'm going to do now, and just thank you to all of you for staying on, is I'm going to invite you, and sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing to get up and keep your cameras on, but I would say just keep doing that. Being vulnerable amongst each other is really what helps connect us. So what I'm going to do is invite you in this moment to actually just get up and do a little bit of a stretch. So what I would say is feel free to just get up for a moment from your computer and give yourself a chance to just listen to your body, because no one can listen to our bodies like we do. And only you know where all the aches and pains are. And not doing anything harsh, but just gentle movements. Things that, you know, your body has been giving you an alert over time. You might have aches and pains somewhere. And just releasing any of the tension that might be there, just to whatever extent you can. Just giving yourself that ability to feel a little bit more energized. I can see there Pumlani is already smiling, which is fantastic because we have this opportunity to just stretch a little bit. And I hope this is something you can do often, even in this conference. Tell people, let's stretch, let's get up, because that's how we feel energized. And the beauty of this is we're sending signals to the brain to say we're safe and we're okay every time we move in a way that sends pleasant sensations to the body. So I'm going to invite you now to have a seat, and I'm going to ask Ian, do you know how much time we have, Ian, so that I can kind of work with this presentation in a way that's conducive for all of us? Yes, Ian?
Yes, sorry, I just had to unplug my headphones so I could hear you while I was stretching and plug them back.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so Jenny, Chanel said we must stop at 11 for tea. So we've got an hour.
So we've got an hour.
Yes.
All right, and we had an hour and 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. We can work with that.
All right.
We've still got an hour. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So we've all just had this stretch. So what I'm going to invite you to do now is, in a way, almost take off the thinking cap. Everything you've heard so far, there's no need to think right now. What I'd really love to do is to invite you to do a resilience practice with me, and I'll describe it and discuss it a bit later on. But I'm just going to give you the opportunity now, as you've stretched, just to find a comfortable posture in your seat. Whatever makes you comfortable. So it's very personable to you. You want to put your feet up. You know, if you want to sit back onto that chair, if you want to put your arms rested on, you know, your seat, really find a way that's comfortable for you. You might notice your shoulders are tight. Relax your shoulders. Okay, wonderful. And then what I'm going to do is just invite you to almost like just lower your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes for this at all. And I've got a little gong here to start and stop a session. So I'm going to gong it. And we're going to do just a 1-minute practice that really helps to regulate your nervous system. And it's a doing practice. So it's a matter of really connecting to sensations in your body. So at the sound of this gong, I'm just going to ask you to really connect to those points of contact that offer you support as you sit on your chair. So allow yourself to feel your feet on the ground, your arms resting either on your lap or on your chair. Feel the support of the seat. So it's really about the sensations. And this can include the sensations of breathing. So I would suggest See if you can breathe in slightly deeper and more gently. Notice those sensations. And now allow yourself to notice whatever sensations are actually in this moment in your body. So we can drop the thinking and just connect to any sensation that's dominant in the body. You might notice that if you have any aches or pains, the body, the attention goes there immediately. And that's fine. We need to know all our aches and pains. We need to acknowledge them. But I'm going to invite you now to just broaden your awareness and notice what other sensations are there. So lean back on that chair. Allow yourself to relax in your posture. And just connect with any neutral or pleasant sensations in your body right now. So perhaps leaning on that back on the chair, bring some pleasant sensations. The deeper breathing can also allow for some pleasant sensations. So we don't think about them, we just allow our minds to focus on those pleasant sensations in this moment. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And if you feel like doing a little bit more stretching, I know that when one tends to close one's eyes, we're all so tired and we go, ooh, we go a bit down. So that's fine. We're all human beings and that's what happens. So if you feel like stretching once again, just do it at any time you want to stretch. It's really, really the way us human beings operate. So what I want to do is explain to you the science of what we've just been doing, because we do this naturally anyway. I want you to think about all the times that you want to feel relaxed. When you go home and you lie down on the couch or on the bed, what are you doing? You are sending neutral and pleasant sensations to the part of the brain that says, I'm okay, I'm safe. And that's what really helps to regulate the nervous system. So we unconsciously do it, and what I want to show you today is how to consciously do it, so that at any time, any given time of the day, whether it's in your work day, at your home life, you can actually regulate your nervous system. And it's all through sensations. It's not through thinking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Ian if, Ian, should I share or do you want to?
So yeah, if you want to share, you can do that, Jenny. I think that'll be the simplest. I was ready to share here, but I think it'll be simpler if you go from your side.
All
right.
Have
you got permission to do that?
Have yes. I got permission?
You should.
So
you should, yes.
I should. That's great.
That's looking good.
Is that looking good?
Yeah. You can.
All right. Slideshow.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to end. And what am I grateful for? But that's not where we're starting.
There we go.
So here we are. And so the theme for today is building resilience, which everyone's given me a lovely definition for, and then emotional regulation. So I'm going to save the emotional regulation for the second part of today. And I'm going to move through these slides, and I want you to relax into them, because what I've done is I've sent Ian this document so that you are just able to listen and to know that you don't really, you know, if you're understanding, or if you're wanting to understand more, what have you, we can always get these documents to you. So it's lovely to just be present and to listen, knowing that you can get these afterwards. But what the big highlight is, as you all said, resilience is our ability to bounce back from difficulty. So when we are resilient, it's an interesting thing. We've got this thing called the resilient zone. So here you'll see a trigger. And when we are resilient, we'll have very difficult emotions over here, as represented by the spark, and we'll kind of go up and down. But what happens is we stay in this resilient zone where the brain is working together. And we do have a high zone and a low zone. A high zone is usually when we have emotions of fear, emotions of anger. And the low zone is the, you know, emotions of sadness, feeling down, feeling fatigued. So when we are resilient, what happens is that we will have a strong trigger, a strong emotion, but we will stay regulated. Our nervous system stays regulated. And the important thing is, when we stay regulated, we have capacity to be present. We have capacity to make good and clear decisions. When we are stuck out of resilience, we don't have this capacity. So take a look at this slide. When, for instance, think of a trigger, you know, someone says something demeaning to you at work or hurtful to you at work. Here it is, you know, it strikes you, you might be feeling hurt. And what happens is, you're in this resilient zone, you're feeling okay this morning, someone says something hurtful, and then you bounce, you know, you can feel really angry about it, or perhaps you can feel really down about it. So you go into the highs and the lows, but the difference is you get stuck in them. So think about how many times, you know, this has happened in your own life, where you get stuck in an emotion. And then you still, you know, it happens in the morning, but it's still with you in the afternoon. When you go to sleep, you're still playing it in your head, what should have been done, what happened, whatever, you're still feeling down about it. The next day, it's still with you. This is when you're out of resilience. It's really when you're out of resilience. And what happens there is that it's very, very bad for your health, because we get stuck in these high zones over here. We remain angry or frustrated or fearful, or we remain very low, very down if we get stuck. And what happens is it dysregulates your whole nervous system, and it releases something called cortisol and adrenaline. And too much of cortisol and adrenaline, if we get stuck there, just look at this last point here. It leads to a lot of chronic stress. It leads to a lot of inflammation. It leads to a lowered immunity, and it leads to a lot of illness. So when we get stuck, you know, in the high zones, in the low zones, we can really suffer from you know, our whole nervous system is under threat. So I'll explain this a little bit more by just looking at this again, at this. Take that in for a moment, okay? So when we are resilient, we can have, for instance, let's say that someone says something hurtful. So you feel really angry about it, and you might then feel quite sad about it. But what happens is you come back to the resilient zone, and the emotion moves through you. It's felt, it moves through you, but you remain regulated. You have clarity. You're not stuck. When you're out of resilience, you stay here, either on top, on the high zone, so that's our threat mode, or in the low zone, which is also a threat mode. And then we tend to either want to fight someone or run away, or we freeze, you know. And the common emotions that are experienced is edginess, irritability, panic, anxiety, and so forth on this when we get stuck on the highs. And when we get stuck on the lows, it's depression, sadness, numbness, isolation, and so forth. So I wanted to just show you and highlight to you the science of this, because it's so wonderful to know how our brain works. And if you look at this little picture here, you will see that we have three parts of the brain. This green part is our thinking part, our executive part, our rational part. What can I learn from this? You know, it's when you have clarity. The blue part over here is the limbic part, the emotional part, okay? And this red part is our survival brain. Now, normally, when we're in our resilient zone, all three of these are working well together. All of them work together. But when we're out of resilience, these two are offline and we are only working from our threat. You know how it is. You get very angry and you almost, like we say, you flip your lid. This top part goes offline. You know, you say and you do things that you regret, and that's normal for all us human beings. So if you take a look here at the slide, it's saying when we're stuck in the high and low zones and we can't get over, we can't let go of the hurt or the pain or the strong emotion, right? What's happening is that we get into this threat system, our survival mode, and we release lots of cortisol, which can make us ill. And normally you know it, you know, your heart's beating fast, you've got high blood pressure, you know, your heart rate, your breathing is very shallow. And one thing I wanted to tell you about this is that this part of the brain, the survival part of the brain, is pre-linguistic, pre-thinking, pre-verbal. What that means is you can't tell yourself, calm down. It's not part of language. You know how it feels when someone tells you to calm down. You feel even more angry because it's not the way to calm down, right? So the only way we can calm down is work with this part of the survival brain down here. And it responds to sensations. It doesn't respond to thinking. So we've got to calm that survival brain that's under threat through not thinking, but through sensations. So I want to show you this over here. And this is probably the most important part of this, all of this, is that the sensations of the body, when we were feeling the sensations of the body are actually the language and signals of that primitive, that survival brain of ours. Okay, when we are stuck in a very high and low zone, when we're feeling threatened, the sensations of the body is what helps us to tell our brain we are safe, we are okay. Okay, so that's what we've got to learn to do, is to regulate our nervous system, regulate our brain through sensations. Okay, and what I've said here is sensations originate in the billions of receptors all over your body, all over your skin. And our thoughts, our emotions also affect us in terms of sensations. So take a look at that picture at the bottom over here. Think of how true that is. Because they've done all these studies, you know, like when you're angry, what are the sensations that you experience? When you're anxious, what lights up in your body? You know, like when you get angry, for instance, my shoulders get tense, my fists get tense, I lose the saliva, you know, in my mouth. You know, we all have these senses. So your body is always truthful. Your body always tells you the truth, what's going on. So we need to connect with the body to find out what's going on in the moment and how we can regulate our nervous system. So that's what I wanted to show you today. And it's very, very basic, is let's connect to noticing in this moment, you know, what is our body telling us? What are the sensations that are going on in our bodies? And I want you to see this point because it's one of the most important. In terms of evolution, we have something called a negativity bias. Now that means our brains will always assess all our emotions, all people, all situations from the point of view of risk and danger. So take that in. In order to protect ourselves, we've got to know if we're in danger or not. So when I say to you, you know, go and scan your body, go and connect with all your sensations, you will find that the body will first, your attention will go to what is unpleasant, to what is painful. That's normal because your body, your brain tries to protect you. But if you stay stuck there, those signals are telling your brain you are unsafe. So what we want to do is to know that you might have aches and pains, but if you get stuck there, you're telling your body, you're telling your nervous system you are unsafe. And that is why it releases lots of cortisol and we get sick. So the most important part here is for us to say, all right, we've got these aches and pains, and it's important to acknowledge them, because your body is giving you signals, this is not okay. I might need to move, I might need to stretch, or maybe you are feeling a bit ill. So we've got to take those signals and take care of ourselves. But at the same time, there's more going on than just those aches and pains. So we've got to look for what else is going on here. Are there pleasant sensations? Are there neutral sensations? And the beauty of this is that it's very, very easy to regulate our nervous system, okay? We're just scanning our body, noticing any unpleasant sensations, okay? And then opening up our perspective, opening up our experience and noticing, are there neutral sensations? Focus on them a little bit. If you focus on the neutral sensations, it signals to your body, I'm safe. Then we look for, okay, right now, are there any pleasant sensations? Maybe you've just had a cup of tea and you have some pleasant sensations in your mouth. You focus on that. And focusing on that sensations says to the brain, I am okay, I am safe. So that's how we kind of work with the unpleasant sensations. And this diagram comes from the Trauma Institute in New York. And it's just a very short way of saying, how do we do tracking? It's called tracking. When we look at we read our nervous system and we regulate our nervous system. And it's very simple. We notice over here. Hi, Lemmy, is that for me?
Oh, sorry.
No, don't worry. All right. So we notice what's happening in the moment in our body. We connect with our bodies. And then we see what's unpleasant, what's pleasant, what's neutral. And when we sit and stay with the pleasant and the neutral. So we acknowledge the aches and pains, that's unpleasant, but we then move on to see what else is there. Because of this negativity bias, we have to see what else is there. And that's what regulates the nervous system. And what we did today is we did it with grounding and tracking. So it's a very simple practice. You've already done this. What I asked you today is to say, listen, our body doesn't exist in a vacuum. We're always supported by something. We're supported by the earth. Welcome back, Lenny. We're supported by the earth. We're supported by the chair. We're always supported by something that offers us comfort, that offers us stability. So those contact points allows us to have neutral and pleasant sensations. So the idea with resilience and to regulate the nervous system is to take off our thinking cap and to just notice sensations, what's going on in the body. And then to use those resting points of contact to notice and acknowledge the pain and the aches of the body, but also to notice what else is going on. And this is the beauty of it. If you rest just 30 or 40 seconds on neutral and pleasant sensations, it signals to the brain, I'm safe and I'm okay. And that's the only way we can actually regulate. And that's why you'll find yourself many times actually, getting up and needing to go outside. Whenever you do that, you're actually giving your body pleasant and neutral sensations, which is what regulates your nervous system. So I hope that's helpful and explains what we've just done. So what I'm going to ask Ian to do is to break us out into, I don't know how many people are here, Ian.
We've got a big group.
Yes, so, 85, fantastic. Yes. So what about groups of 3?
Sure.
And what we're going to do, and we'll put it on, we're going to put it on your chat group. You know what would be really lovely is for us to have a very honest conversation with ourselves with 3 things. Firstly, was there any difficulty? Did we even grasp that, understand that? Do we need clarity on any aspect of that? Because sometimes you want to focus and the focus goes somewhere else, you know, or you get it, but you're not quite sure if you've missed a point or two. So amongst your groups, really see if there's any difficulties or any points you want to clarify in terms of the neuroscience that I've shared. So I've shared those slides. They made some important scientific points about your nervous system, about your brain. So clarify with each other, perhaps if there's any difficulties. And also, if there is and you don't have answers, you can also put those questions to me later. Then the second one would be, how was it for you? You know, we started off doing it without thinking. We just sat down, we got into the sensations. And how was it for you? Did you find it beneficial? Just that moment of breathing a little bit more gently, connecting to the points of contact and noticing, you know, those unpleasant sensations, but also the pleasant and neutral, which is what signals to the brain that we're okay. And then what I'd love to do is to ask you, and this is probably the most important, how do we bring this into our daily lives so that we can remember, if it's beneficial, how do we bring this into the conference today? How do we bring it into our lives with our families? How do we bring it into our lives with our colleagues? That's really where we can help each other and we can really share and come up with some good suggestions that are really helpful for everybody. So Ian, if you want to give people maybe 5 or 6 minutes, so everyone has an opportunity to go for 2 minutes. And what I'll do is I'm going to ask afterwards if we have time for people to volunteer to give feedback from your group. So if you can decide who would like to do that, and it's of course optional, but let's go for it.
All right. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to send you off into the groups now. So you'll get that pop-up on your screen again, asking you to join a breakout room. So please just accept that when you get it. It's groups of 3. Jenny, you are included in a group, so you're welcome to leave that group again or stay in the group, depending on what you think would be best. And I'll bring you all back just after 10:30.
Wonderful.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to invite you all to just join a group and have a lovely chat.
Okay, so sorry, Jenny, I see it doesn't actually put you in a group. I see that.
It did. I just chose not to.
Okay, cool.
Because it feels unfair.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to have a discussion on their own.
Sure. Yeah, so we do the same thing.
How was that for you, Ian? Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, okay, good. I see you smiling.
Yeah, that was great. I just want to check. So we've got a few here who haven't joined their groups yet.
Yeah, of course, of course. Ian, I'm going to grab some water. I hope you don't mind. Is that okay? Thank you, sweetheart.
Okay, so for the guys that are still here, if you can maybe just let me know if you didn't see the invite to join the group or if there was any issue. Let's see here, I'm going to move to group 27. Okay, so the guys that are still here, did you can maybe just let me know if you didn't get the invite, and I can move you to a different group, or just let me know. You can let me have some feedback. So I'm just...
Yeah, I see, Ian, it says some people say no camera, no mic.
Oh, the silent partners.
Yes.
That's what Renee says. It's, I'm just wanting to make sure that there's no one sitting on their own.
Yeah, of course. You go for it.
Most important thing.
Ian, is there any way we can write those 3 questions in the chat group? Can I do it? How do I do it? Or do you do it?
If you can pop them into the chat here, and then I have to send them off to all the groups.
I love, how much time do we have?
Just a few minutes. I think I'll bring them back in about 3 minutes. Well, should we say, it took a while for them to join the group. So should we say?
Yeah. I don't want to rush them.
Yeah, okay.
No, I forget how much time, when do we end again? Oh, so listen,
11,
firstly,
yeah.
at 11. Okay. Sweetheart, do you want to send them that, discuss any difficulties, whatever? I've written it on the chat.
Okay.
To them in the group. Sometimes you forget what you...
Yes. I'm just going to... Ooh.
What do you do? Do you have to copy and paste it, or how does that?
Oh, there's a limit. That's so frustrating. Limit. Okay. Yeah. So I have to send it.
Oh, I see it there.
Yeah. So the guys that are still here, can you hear us? These might be guys that don't have a microphone or a video.
Okay. You know, I was always wondering, if that happens, can people still let us know through reactions or not?
Yes, yeah. So they can still react.
So if you hear and you're able to do it, maybe you can do something like that. You go to reactions and you pop your hand up. Then we know if you're here and if we're able to help you in any way to make the most of this session. But not a problem. This might have been an opportunity to go and have that early tea break or coffee that no one's had. And that's being human too. So I feel like doing, need another coffee. And Ian, how's it been going? I heard you had some tech difficulties yesterday.
Yes, yeah. We had some challenges. I think, we were relying on internet connectivity from Sanby being able to support the videos yesterday.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the connectivity here is it's a little bit unreliable.
Yeah.
So, but the video is going to be up on YouTube soon, if it's not already on YouTube, and I think it'll be really great for people
yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Have a look at that.
Oh, people are coming back. Wonderful.
Coming back, yeah. Okay, I'm going to close the rooms then.
Yes,
Let
please.
me give them a minute. I'll give them a minute and then I'll close the rooms. Yeah.
And then for those of you that have joined, Michelle, I see you already ready to say something. Let's start that conversation.
I just saw a little message from you, Ian, and I thought you were pulling us back. So that's why
I think pull them back. So because we've got such short amount of time, and it's it's a terrible thing to do any of these practices in a hurried sense. There's no point in them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be back shortly.
Wonderful. So welcome back, everybody. So we do have limited time, but I would love to hear from anyone who feels inspired. And let's start with difficulties, because all of us do have difficulties. Anything difficult that might have come up that you haven't resolved, if anyone wants to share any difficulty or understand any or get any clarification, this is the time. So please feel free to ask. If any of the groups had a difficulty with the practice or need clarification, please feel free. Now's your time. Anyone want to offer up a difficulty? Yes, please go ahead. Mahlatse, yes.
Hi everybody, I'm Mahlatse and from Sambi. From NSCF Sambi. The difficulty part that we were discussing is that it's a bit difficult. The activity was beneficial. It felt like it's waking up your body when you just woke up, or when you've been sitting down for a very long time. So when you stretch, it feels like your body is waking up again. But the difficult part is how to channel that during those negative emotions whenever you want to. So we don't know if that needs more practice, or there are steps that you can
to regulate the emotions.
To regulate the emotions, yes.
You see, you are ahead of your time. You're ahead of your time. That's part 2 of the presentation. So wonderful.
All right.
So that's fabulous, because that's why I wanted to come from you. So we can regulate our nervous system by checking any time, because the body doesn't lie. So in any given time right now, you can regulate your nervous system. You can see, okay, are there any unpleasant sensations? Yes, yeah, there are. The brain goes there. But what else is there? So we have to broaden that up so that we notice, okay, there's also neutral sensations. My stomach's feeling okay. And oh, I've also got a pleasant sensation from leaning back here. So what happens, that helps to regulate. Now, how to maintain resilience is part 2 when we come to those strong emotions, which I'm going to take you through in a minute. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. And I think we've all benefited from you asking that question. So well done. Thank you for that, love. And any benefits that anyone feel that was helpful? You've already said so. Anyone want to give feedback from another group? Ilse, that would be lovely to hear from you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we had a good session in our little group. We also, the question came up around, and I don't know if this was what Mahlatse was also saying, because I missed the beginning of this question just as we joined back.
Sure.
But identifying neutral emotions, because when you live in a permanent state of fight or flight, when
yes.
when you've been there for so long, like a negative emotion or rather a neutral emotion is just like a step up from bad. So like, how do you identify that when you have been in such a prolonged state of fight or flight?
Yes,
and that was
yes.
And then also for us, the questions about bringing it into daily practice.
Okay, so it's a very important point that you're saying, because in this flight or fright, we have stress all the time. So I'm going to give you an example. You wake up and your shoulder is sore, right? So you wake up with that stress. Maybe that's where you carry your stress. So in the moment you notice that, and it's important to notice because your pain tells you your nervous system's not okay. So then broaden your experience and notice, is the other shoulder perhaps a bit neutral? And you might find that the other shoulder feels absolutely fine. You wake up with an earache. What about the other ear? You wake up with a tummy ache. let's look at the surrounding area around that. That might be feeling more neutral. You with me? So we tend to stay focused on the negative, and that's what keeps telling our brain we are not resilient, we are unsafe. So this is a practice, and we become what we practice. So if we practice regularly, we will be able to start regulating our nervous system, not just when we go home or when we are on the weekend, but in any and everyday life. So my last question to you is, anyone have suggestions? How do we bring this into our daily lives? How do we bring this into our working lives so that we can benefit? And I'll start off by telling you, I've just trained a group of doctors at Grooteskier dealing with all these vaccines. They work 15-hour shifts. I was quite intimidated to teach them the neuroscience, I must admit, but they loved it and they helped regulate their nervous system. And what they shared, what they came up with is, you know, they've got to wash their hands every time they see a new patient. So they were going to do the tracking and the grounding practice at that point, right? So here you are in between a patient, you're washing your hands, right? You're letting go what you've just been through, because you've got to be present to the next patient, and then track your own body. How am I feeling in this moment? What are the sensations there, right? And then noticing any unpleasant sensations, acknowledging they're there, but also moving on. Okay, what else is existing here? What are the neutral sensations? What are the pleasant sensations? Maybe after washing your hands, you know, you can feel very energized, or sometimes you splash your face and you feel very energized. Those can be pleasant sensations. And all of a sudden, your nervous system has regulated. So how can we bring this into your lives? Anyone have a sense of it? Have anyone come up with ideas? I'd love to hear. Yes, Bernard. I think you're still on mute, my love.
There we go. Yeah, I kind of find what you mentioned with the doctor, because I come from a surgical background where I used to wash my hands, and that was a ritual that prepares you in a neutral way for whatever happens to the left or the right of the spectrum. But I find my kind of thing is important to take a tea or coffee break. And when I've got that coffee mug in front of me, I ritualize it a little bit. I can smell it. It's a sensation. And then I taste it and I just close my eyes for a moment, and then nothing else exists apart from that coffee, sort of the elixir of life, in my opinion. But yeah, and then when I put that mug down, I'm ready to tackle whatever's coming from whichever side. And that works for me.
I think I resonate with you, and it's one of the main reasons we have our tea and our coffee breaks, because you know what we're doing? We're actually giving ourselves neutral and pleasant sensations, isn't it? And that's what regulates the nervous system. So think about all those habits you have. You know, you go outside for a stretch, or you're going to have your tea or coffee. The important thing is this, as Bernard was saying, if you are thinking about work at that time, you don't even taste that tea or coffee. There's no point. So whatever you do, as Bernard's saying, is bring the sensations in. So another example is you start off your day at work and you're putting on your computer, and you know that takes a minute or two. Use that time to get yourself into a comfortable posture, right? Notice the sensations, regulate your nervous system. Whatever you're doing, take those moments to regulate by just connecting to the sensations. And there's nothing better than like a cup of tea or coffee. Why? You've got the smell, the taste, the aroma, you feel it as you drink. It's like, you know, you appreciate it. And think of the times when you're not mindful, when you're drinking or eating. You might be having your favorite meal. It might be your only time for a break, and you're not connected to the sensations. And what happens? We eat it without even like enjoying it, because the enjoyment comes from the sensations, right? So I can see everyone smiling there. Margaret, you want to add anything else to this?
I'm trying to hold my kitten back here.
Wonderful. Then touch that kitty and let the sensations of connecting with that kitty regulate your nervous system, because that's what it does. So I'm going to come back to the main point, the first point that was brought up is, how do we maintain regulation? What about all these emotions? So this is what I'm going to do now. is I'm going to ask you to, if you can, because it's really helpful, because I would love you to be able to reflect after this session, is get a piece of paper. Is everyone got a piece of paper? And do this with a piece of paper. 3 big circles if you can. So I'm just going to give you a moment to go and get a piece of paper and 3 big circles. So I've just got 3 big circles there. And this is going to be a really helpful way to learn how to regulate your nervous system. And what I want you to do on the first circle is put threat, because when it comes to the science, we've got 3 regulatory systems, and I'll explain this later, but we've got something called the threat system in the brain that regulates our emotions. So a big circle, so that after, and you write threat because you want to be able to write inside this circle. And then on the other hand over here, you're going to have a circle that says drive, D-R-I-V, everything that drives you, because we've got a process in the brain that regulates our drive system, wanting that coffee. And then we have another circle called the contentment, or we can call the soothing system. You can write soothing, or you can write contentment system. So we've got 3 circles: threat, drive, and contentment. I hope that's helpful. Threat, drive, and contentment. So what I'm going to do is just ask you to reflect a bit, and we'll do the exercise so that I'll explain the science afterwards. So let's go to that threat system. Okay, and I want you to think of the threat system has 3 main emotions: anger, fear, and disgust. Your threat system. Okay, and I want you to think of your day, how you normally spend your day. And anything, let's go on anger first. Anything that makes you feel irritated, anything that makes you feel frustrated, anything that makes you feel angry, just note it down. Anger, frustration, irritation, irritability. We've all got different levels. And think of the big things and the small things. So you might be concerned about your health, which is quite a big one. You might be concerned about your work security, anything that makes you feel threatened or makes you have frustration, irritability, anger. And you can also then include fear. Okay, fear are emotions of worry, emotions of anxiety, being scared. Anything in your day, and you don't have to have an exhaustive list, anything that you know triggers you, makes you feel fearful, makes you feel insecure, makes you feel worried, makes you feel anxious, makes you feel scared. And it's really about being honest with yourself about those things. A lot of people ask me about mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being true to ourselves in any given moment. So just give yourselves a sense of, and then disgust. It's an interesting one, but it's one of the biggest things that we experience is also disgust, repulsion, when we want to get rid of something. Anything that makes you feel like that. Just want to get rid of something. What is it? Is it the traffic? All right, so this makes up the threat system and it releases a lot of cortisol. I'll take you through the science in a minute. But I want you to look at it in your life, in your daily life, how this impacts you. And then I want to move on to the drive system, D-R-I-V-E. And this is to do with all your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, your inspirations. So these are positive emotions. And what I want you to think of, all the people, the places, and the things, people, places, things, activities that make you feel inspired, that make you feel up and going. It inspires you. The main feeling is energy. What gives you energy? What are you doing in your life that gives you energy? Could be this conference. It could be a great friend. It could be exercise. What gives you, the main thing that's released there is dopamine. It's a buzz. You get energy from it. What do you have? The people, the places, the activities in your own life that inspire you, get you going, make you feel energized. What gives you energy? Think of your bucket list, all the things you inspired. And think of your to-do list. And I want you to have a really good look at it, especially your to-do list. We have a lot of things we want to do, a lot of things we're inspired by. But does it come from a threat or does it come from being inspired? So I'm going to give you an example. I love self-help books. I buy a lot of them, but I don't read them. So they sit next to my bookshelf. And every time I look at them, I have a sense of feeling bad about myself. I feel threatened. So that doesn't belong in my drive system. It belongs in my threat system. So sometimes you'll end up doing a course or doing something that actually belongs in your threat system because you're doing it out of fear, not out of inspiration. Very important to look at it. Sometimes a best friend, instead of energizing you, can actually make you feel threatened. It's important to look at it. People, places, activities. Right now, how are they making you feel? Are they inspiring you, giving you energy, or are they threatening you? So important. You can keep this reflection going on because things keep changing for us. And in the last circle, I want you to think of this contentment and the soothing system and how that works. And so these are all the people, the places, the activities. And I want you to listen to these words that make you feel safe. Safety is very important. They make you feel safe. They make you feel cared for. They make you feel protected. They make you feel nurtured. And they make you feel accepted. Safe, protected, cared for, connected, accepted. Who are those people in your life that accept you for who you are? Give you a sense of contentment. Where are you when you feel okay? You can just be as you are. Maybe it's hugging someone you love, maybe being in nature, maybe being with a pet. What are the things that you just, don't have to do anything else. I'm content. I'm okay as I am. Okay, and as you jot that down, I'm going to ask Ian to put on our slide so I can still just show you the science behind this to make you understand how that happens and what the science behind, the neuroscience behind what you've just written down to give you a better sense of it. Ian, should I try and share again?
Yeah, you can share again.
I hope everyone can see that.
Yes. Jenny, just a heads up that we've just got about 9 minutes left.
Yes, I'm with it, my love. I am the master of flexibility. So what you've seen here, as the question has come up, is how do we regulate our emotions? And as you can see, the brain has 3 regulatory regulation zones: the threat, the drive, and the contentment. One is to protect you. One is to get you out into the world to achieve. And the other one is to get you to rest and digest so you can be calm in your life. So I'm going to take you through it, and I'm going to take you through just the most essential points of this. Remember that threat system. It's great. It's there to protect you. There's nothing wrong with it. If you didn't have a threat system, you wouldn't survive. Okay? It picks up on threats. And as we've said, anger, fear, disgust. So we either want to run, we want to fight, or we want to freeze. Okay? And what happens is, it's so important to realize is that you'll notice this with our heartbeat going faster, our breathing going faster. We usually feel threatened, so you can pick up on that. But this is the interesting part. The best offer of protection, when you perceive threat, when you actually are about to die, if you think you're going to die, your body will freeze. So the calming nervous system part of the brain actually stops, and you get your heart stops beating faster, your breath starts slowing down, there's less oxygen to the brain, and people freeze and they faint. Okay, and this can happen at any time, even socially, because we're social beings. So threat of public speaking, threat of in an exam, you know how you go blank in your mind, you can't think, you go into paralysis, you dissociate. That is your body freezing. And let me tell you, this is unconscious. You can't help this. This is your body's best way to protect you, is to either flee, fight, or freeze. And your freezing is really when you have deep perception of danger. And what we're releasing, as I've said, is the cortisol. And remember that this threat system is the one that's activated the fastest out of all of them, because it needs to protect you. And most of us, if you take a look at it, have an overstimulated nervous system. All right, if you take a look here, we have an overstimulated nervous system. That means that we've got a lot of stress, a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety. And as someone said, that is, and that is pervasive in our COVID days today. That's why it's so important to learn to regulate for ourselves. If you look at this drive system, the important part here to see is that we need this drive system, our ability to get going, to be inspired, to have hopes and dreams. Okay, and what it releases here is a chemical called dopamine. Okay, and when you're on Facebook, dopamine is released. When you're gaming, dopamine is released. Anything you're doing that's high energy, dopamine is released, but it's also the cause of addiction. That's why for gamers, when they're playing very fast, there's so much high dopamine being released, you can't get off the game. And when you get off the game, you have low levels then after the dopamine rush, and you really suffer from addiction. And this is any form of addiction. Okay, because of the dopamine. And we see also in society that most of us have too much. We are too much on the go. We have lots of to-do things on the list. And what happens is that if you're over here, it's overstimulated. When your drive system is overstimulated, you lose the very drive that you need. You suffer from exhaustion and burnout. Okay, and then we have this contentment system, which we've spoken about, everything that makes us feel safe, feel nurtured, feel cared for. And what I want to tell you here is that the most important part is this, look at that part where I say neurological. It releases something called endorphins. Endorphins is more powerful than morphine. And I'll give you an example. When I was in hospital having a cesarean, I was in so much pain and I was on a morphine drip, which didn't help. And as soon as my other two children came in, the love for them, the connection for them gave so many endorphins that I couldn't feel the pain that I was in. And that is because when you are in a relationship that is kind and there's kindness, the endorphins are released. And that is what is stronger than morphine. Also the oxytocin, the love hormone. When you're in a nurturing relationship with yourself, okay, and with others, endorphins are released. And this is really what makes us feel good. The other one is serotonin. All antidepressants are made up of serotonin, and we've got this in doses. As soon as we feel safe and we feel connected and we're nurturing others and ourselves, we feel we get released. And so the important point is to see how much of this have you got going in your own lives. And to end off, I wanted to show you that a lot of us are in between this threat and drive system, right? So we have a lot of stress, we have a lot of drive, but it's the contentment system that regulates the other two. The soothing and contentment system that allows you to rest and digest. So how do we, just in a 1-minute practice, regulate these strong emotions? How do we activate our contentment system? All right, you've already got the answers. Do all the things that already make you feel safe, connected, nurtured. That is what activates this contentment system. And a simple gratitude practice. Okay, so a gratitude, you know what gratitude is? to appreciate what you've already have in your life. Because what happens is the brain doesn't distinguish between past and present. When you're grateful for the people, for the places, for the activities in your life that already give you benefit, those endorphins, the contentment system, you know, is activated and it regulates your emotions. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And wow, we've got 3 minutes. So it gives us still an ability to do that. So I want you to think about gratitude, and I'm going to start you off by just giving you an example of how I bring it into my life. So I've got 3 children, and the way I bring gratitude into my life is at dinner time is the only time we really get to sit down, and we have a way of talking about everything, being really honest. So we'll say, you know, highs and lows so that we can actually understand each other's day. You know, if someone's having a difficult day, we can relate to them. We can be there for support them. But what am I grateful for? So what am I grateful for? And when you get to share what you're grateful for, it's a wonderful, wonderful way to activate that contentment system in your brain and to release that wonderful cocktail of emotions. So one suggestion at work or even at this conference, what am I grateful for right now? When you start a meeting, what am I grateful for in this meeting? And let everyone have a chance. And that gratitude immediately gets that contentment going. So I'd love to hear from someone perhaps who hasn't said anything, any other ideas. How can we get contentment, our contentment system up and going and have gratitude? Because that's a great way. You know, we can go and practice and be with those people that make us feel content. But when we're not around them, just thinking about them, just appreciating them still gives rise to those endorphins. That's how the brain works. That's the beauty of it. So someone's already saying, I'm grateful for the session. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone want to? We've got 1 more minute. Anything that you can do to be grateful in your day, to bring it into your work. You can write it down. Amen. Yes. Amen to you too. Grateful for the breath in my lungs. Absolutely. Take a moment to connect right now to that sensations of breathing gently. Be grateful. Grateful for the colleagues at work and friends. Absolutely. And remember, this is the beauty. This is, if I'm going to leave you with one thing, is this. Your brain reacts in the same way, whether you're doing an activity or doing it inside. External or internal. So when you have gratitude, you can appreciate people in the moment, even if they're not around you or activities. Your brain releases the same cocktail. So I hope you have a wonderful day and you bring that gratitude into your day because it will make you feel great. So I really enjoyed spending this time with you. And the beauty is that Ian says he can pass on these, you know, the slides to you if you want to look at them, if you want to benefit from them. And just thank you to you. And Ian, I'm out at 11 as you asked. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. It was wonderful.
Thanks so much, Jenny. That was really great.
It's a pleasure.
Jenny, just while we wait for the other people, so the other groups will be joining now, do you have contact details that you could share with people in case they want to get in touch with you and sort of perhaps continue something like this?
I run courses through UCT University and through various other forums. And the wonderful thing through COVID is they've kept their prices really low. And what we do is we run courses for like 8 weeks because it takes 8 weeks to break old habits and create new ones, and we become what we are. So today you might have a lot of insights, but like we said, how do we keep this going? How do we actually really bring this into our daily life? So if any of you are interested in practicing, I'm going to write it down here. This is my email, dharma@discoverymail.co.za, and you're very welcome to join any of the courses. I don't get too much paid out of it. UCT makes a little bit of money, but I'm very grateful. And if you want to break habits, just remember this. You can already do it. you're already doing all of this. You're already regulating your nervous system. Every time you stretch, every time you go and have a tea or coffee, as Bernard's saying, enjoy it. Get into the sensations. You're regulating your nervous system. And then bring it into your day as much as you can. The more you practice, the more regulated, the more you regulate your emotions and maintain resilience. So don't think you've got to do a course to get better. You can easily bring this into your life. It's not something that's outside of you, but you can, of course, enhance your skills. If you need support, you can join a group. But other than that, you are absolutely capable of doing it for yourself. Really, you know, we all learn it in different ways. There isn't a right way or a wrong way, but it is lovely to learn in a group, because then we support each other. And I find that I learn so much more from a group. That's why I'm so keen to hear from all of you, all the ideas. In fact, I'll share one last idea. Someone shared with me last week, they do it when they go to the toilet. And I said, that's fantastic. We all go to the toilet. We usually have a sense of relief afterwards. Appreciate it. And regulates the nervous system. There we go, you know. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your session. And I really enjoyed the presentations. I might join again at the end to see all you wonderful people and all the wonderful work that you do. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jenny. That was fantastic. That was great. I'm sure everyone got a huge, I think there was a hit. I think there was definitely the hit of the morning.
Don't hit me, but it was a great hit. Thank you. Go and have, and you know what? I think you're allowed to have tea and coffee. So maybe go and make that a practice.
And we apologize for cutting your tea a bit short, but we're feeling very confident that you had a lovely time in your self-care session, in your How We Are session. So while we wait for a few more colleagues to join us, can I invite you to just type into the chat just some comments, just quick comments, even just one word about your experience in your breakaway room. How we are. An opportunity, a moment just to connect in with ourselves. How are we doing? In the context of that very powerful video that Chanel shared with us earlier, and the little bit of input that Sanis shared with us this morning. So if it would be wonderful to hear from some of the other groups. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Some nice comments in the chat. Fragile but resilient. Beautiful. The video did hit hard. Oh, that video hits hard. Feeling very mortal. That's like, oh, that feels very profound. That goes deep. Getting there, Lemmy. Yeah. So welcome back. Calming and fun. That's a nice combination of things. Calming and fun. That's a good combo to go for. Yeah. Thanks, Alison. Yes. So welcome back, colleagues. We're almost at 100 participants back in the room. So I think we can move on then to our after tea session. I'm kind of now feeling sad that these aren't full day, even though it's Zoom and even though we've got such a love-hate relationship with Zoom. I'm kind of feeling a bit sad that we're not having 4 full days of forum. And in our session, in our creative writing session, we even had a short little 5-line poem called a Cinquain, dedicated to the forum itself as a learning space. So that was a beautiful moment actually in our little breakaway group, in our creative writing group. So colleagues, we're moving from this question of how we are at a very personal level to where we are, where we're finding ourselves now at this time. We're finding ourselves in unusual times, in unusual circumstances, as Michelle alluded at the opening of this forum. And we're finding ourselves where our collections are suddenly at much greater risk than they were before. We're finding ourselves at times where much greater leadership is being asked of all of us as we navigate our way during these unusual times. We're having to work virtually, and this brings a whole host of issues, not just all the tech issues, but a whole host of socio-psychological issues that brings with it this virtual working life that many of us are having to juggle together with our in-person and office lives. And then there's just a lot going on for all of us in our workplaces. And sometimes we just need an open holding space where we can just make sense of that for ourselves and where we can just have those conversations with others. And so those are our 4 parallel sessions for you to choose from this afternoon. And I think Chanel will post those links again, I think, in the chat. And I'm hoping that it wasn't too difficult for everybody to exit this Zoom room and to join the new Zoom room where they were then in their parallel session. So we're going to have we're going to have another round to learn, to become familiar with that kind of learning and movement now. As we go into the second session, we wanted to share just one slide. And we are calling this slide the 3 overarching questions. And Chanel, if you can just put it up for us, that would be wonderful. And we're asking everybody, maybe you want to take a picture of this slide, just to hold this slide in your consciousness as we go through the forum together. So we've checked in this morning with how we are. And from now, we're transitioning into the workspace. And the 3 questions for our learning journey that threads throughout the next 3 days are as follows. The first one, a green question: what is the condition of the soil in your institution for the implementation or for the taking root of the manual? What would create greater readiness in your institution for the implementation of the manual? What could create greater fertility and vitality in your institution so that this manual can take root and grow? So there are factors like psychological safety, which is an interesting concept. You can Google that if you haven't had any exposure to that. There's some wonderful TED Talks around psychological safety, resilience. There are issues of a culture of equality, of participation, of empowerment, of agency of all staff, cohesion of all staff, that would create the greatest amount of readiness for the implementation of this manual. The second question, the orange question: how could we create the conditions for the different institutions to truly support one another, to truly collaborate on this implementation process? And how can we make best use of the hub teams of webinars and support for the implementation process? So the second question is about support. It is an orange question. It brings warmth. It brings support for this implementation process that needs to take root and needs to grow in each of our institutions. And then a purple question which is about sovereignty. It's about our our individual life force that we bring. What role can you personally play in terms of introducing the manual implementation process, to advocate for it, to enroll your colleagues in this process, to begin to convene some conversations, and to begin to practically implement and operationalize the different aspects of the manual? If we believe that we all come to the process of as leaders, each of us can play a particular role in convening each other, convening our institutions in order to give some effect to the implementation of the manual. And I'm just thinking of this morning's beautiful poem. It was such a surprise. We thought Sunny was just doing the poem on her own, but no, she brought a whole community of voices with her. And that community was convened. People were enrolled, they were encouraged to participate, and they were called together with a vision of something to deliver, to do something together. And they produced this beautiful spoken poem together. And if we can think of that every time we think about the implementation of the manual, that is actually a beautiful example for us about how we go about it. In the same way that we conceived of and convened this forum, and that we're co-creating and participating in this forum. We each play our part. So those are our 3 overarching questions for our learning journey. And we are also going to, on Friday, come back to these questions in our cafe conversations. So if you can keep these 3 questions in mind. Thank you, Chanel. And so with that, we invite you to join your breakaway groups. We need to be back in our main room in an hour's time. So round about 12:30. We need to complete our session in our breakaway groups, in our different parallel groups. They're not technically breakaways, they're technically parallel sessions because they belong to different links. And so we need to end that session by 12:30, and we need to rejoin the main forum link at 12:30 for our checkout, for our final checkout. All clear? Everybody clear? Thumbs up.
So I'm facilitating, and I'll also just contribute as well. I think most of you know me, but I'm Michelle Hamer from the NSCF Hub. And then our other panelists will be Bernard Zipfel, he's the curator of Paleosciences collection at WITS in the Evolutionary Studies Institute. Leboheng Mohapi, who's the director of Ditsong National Museum of Natural History, and then Erich van Wyk, who's the manager of the National Herbarium at Sandy. I think you can go to the next slide. So I think Ilse mentioned in this, when she was talking just now, is that everybody in some way is a leader, whether you're a manager or you a scientist or even a technician in a collection, everybody can be a leader. And we've seen that through the NSCF. And so I think while managers have the responsibility for leadership, everybody can do something as a leader. But I think there's more pressure on people who have a management responsibility. And our responsibilities have been huge during the time of COVID. And there's been a lot of extra pressure and stress on managers at this time. So, Mashlatsi, can you go to the next slide, please? There we go. And so what I've asked is not for formal presentations, but for the panelists to reflect on these questions related to leadership in the time of COVID. So what were your immediate thoughts related to COVID-19 and the lockdown as a leader? And then what was the most important, biggest, most impactful leadership decisions or actions that you took in relation to the challenge of COVID or the challenges? And then what has been your biggest frustration or challenge as a leader during COVID? And then we'll break into groups, and Mashlatsi, you'll have to put us in groups. I'm going to leave that entirely up to you, how you do it. And then we'll look at some leadership qualities. And that's not just for managers, that's for everybody who has been kind of exposed to leadership or observed leadership, or even if you're not a manager who's had to do something to show leadership. We'll first have the panelist presentation or reflections on these questions. Then we'll break into groups. We'll have about 15 minutes. And then we'll come back into plenary and try and note key points that came out of the groups. All right, so I think if I can ask Bernard, if you can start with your reflections, please. And then let's, yeah, I think we'll leave the questions up and we'll just, if you can unmute and have your camera on, and then you can reflect on this for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. So my immediate thoughts related to COVID-19 being essentially in charge and managing many collections here at Wits University was, oh crap. That was my first thought. And the scramble initially was to cancel the plans for things that required going overseas, having visitors from overseas come to our collections, which is the largest of our research contingent cohort that we depend on to get work done. Dealing with material that was urgently, that was overseas on exhibition, that needed to come back and couldn't come back. And then also dealing with things like who can actually go to the building, because we were told we now have to stay at home. So the most important, the biggest, most impactful decisions that needed to be taken was firstly to make sure that everybody was as safe as possible. Then of course you have to obey your institutional rules and regulations, which fell in with the national lockdown regulations. Of course, those first few weeks, we had one appointed person that would get a permit to be able to access the building, to see whether collections were safe, whether there was flooding, anything like that, and just to water the plants or feed any animals that were on site. The next important thing was to start contacting people that had made plans to visit, not taking, obviously they would know that they can't get flights to South Africa and do what they needed to, but be proactive enough to come up with a plan B of how we would be able to assist people virtually. That also included students that were doing master's and doctoral studies, but particularly people doing master's studies, which they only have a year to do it in, to actually convert those projects into work that could be done virtually, and then also make sure we could get permits for our CT scanner manager to come on board and generate virtual data. Obviously this, I'm talking about my situation, but I think these are similar issues across the board with collections, where you think, how can we help people? How can we continue being productive research-wise by assisting researchers with virtual data? And then the biggest frustration, I guess, was to think that we lost a lot financially. A lot of funding that we had access to, we had to return to the university. There was NRF funding that had lapsed and was simply taken away. And one couldn't really plan ahead. There were several field trips that had to be cancelled. And of course, in our case, being a teaching institution, we have students within our midst, and this also goes for interns and people like that at museums, that we had to accommodate somehow and get them through the year. That was the frustration, and trying to define what's an essential service and what we can let go. So that's sort of just my very broad overview.
Thanks very much, Bernard. Can we move on to Moleboheng, please?
Good morning, colleagues. It has started raining. I hope that the background noise is not so bad. So my initial thoughts relating to COVID, I must be honest that initially when the pandemic broke out in other parts of the world and we did not have any cases in the country, I was very naive. I was very naive about the pandemic, and I because they explained it as a strong kind of like a very strong kind of flu, and I thought, what could be so bad about this that it can't be controlled? It's just a flu. Can we not just, you know, drink all sorts of concoctions? And I'm a believer in I drink a lot of supplements. Can't we just strengthen our immune systems? And I remember the first meeting that we had as EXCO, and I said to colleagues, are you really scared of this thing? Because CEO was already really worried, wanting us to make plans and wanting us to talk about PPE and how we're going to protect. I was like, okay, do you think that it's going to be so bad? We don't have it in the country. I think we are fine. And everybody was like, no, this thing is serious. I was very naive, I must say. And then the first case came, and at the time that lockdown started, I honestly thought that would be able to contain the disease, because the first couple who came back from Italy were quarantined, and all contacts that they had were traced. And even the people who were repatriated from China, they were in quarantine and none of them tested positive. I thought, you know, how bad can it get? But yet again, I was still naive. And a 21-day lockdown turned into a year, almost a year of lockdown. And so one then began to really get worried, especially when I started losing people the numbers became names of people that I knew. I became very worried about the immediate family, but also worried about colleagues, worried about, you know, just the economy, because I could see my brother is self-employed and I could see what impact it was having on the economy. Just, you know, there was just the spirit of hopelessness in me. But as a collective, as leadership of Ditso Museums of South Africa, as I said earlier, CEO was very like, we need to get serious about this. We need to make plans. We developed a we created a COVID response team. We created the COVID pandemic risk register. We met weekly on Zoom to monitor our response to COVID. We developed a WhatsApp group for the whole organization to just keep track of everyone, especially those who didn't have internet access at home, just to make sure that everyone is okay. There was a lot of communication, especially from CEO's office, wanting to check on people. And it wasn't just business related. The direction that she gave as a leader, in which we supported, was that human lives matter the most. You know, we want to save lives. We don't want to put anybody's life at risk. We want to make sure that nobody dies from this pandemic. And we appointed caretakers to the museums. We decided that each museum has to have a caretaker who lives on the premises to just check on the building every day, to check on the collections. And that helped a lot, because we were able to pick up cases of flooding. There was flooding at my museum. There were cases of theft in other museums, and we were able to act swiftly on those and to make sure that collections were not affected adversely. And we allowed curators one visit to the museum weekly to just make sure that the collections were well taken care of, which helped a lot, because I don't want to think that we would have survived, especially the collections, if we had not at least sent people to go and check on their collections weekly. What were some of the biggest frustrations or challenges as a leader? I think the biggest challenge for me or frustration was the budget cuts that we incurred. We had to give back money to the department, money that was to help with the Solidarity Fund. It really was frustrating. I think we got 3 budget cuts. We got 2 budget cuts from our operational budget, and also from our infrastructure budget. So every time we think that we are getting back on our feet and we know what's going on, then there would be another budget cut and we'd have to go back and look at where to cut. And unfortunately, it always leaves, the core business of the organization in limbo, What also frustrated me were some people who thought that lockdown was a holiday and they were just relaxing at home instead of using the time profitably. There were those members of staff who really worked hard and started producing papers, but there were some who were just, it seemed as if, I remember one colleague once sent me a message to say, okay, so we expected to work every day. And I was like, okay, I don't understand this question. Nobody said this is a holiday, especially if you can do something from home, if you can do research or whatever else you can do from home. And so we had to constantly, as leaders, to remind people that we are not on holiday. So I started demanding weekly reports from those who have computer access at home to just make sure that each one of us was still working. I think one of the frustrations as well was staff who were appointed at the time that lockdown started. I really felt sorry for them that we didn't give them the right orientation, and we had quite a number of those people because we were busy implementing our restructuring and employing quite a number of staff. It really was, I'm a social being, so to not meet them personally and make that, have that personal touch was frustrating, and yet you expect them to get into this and work. It really was frustrating. Not being able to achieve our targets, we had just developed a very beautiful both farm exhibition, and we planned to launch it in April. We had just finished it and we couldn't launch the exhibition. It was frustrating that all the hard work, it felt as if all the hard work we put to get the exhibition completed was in vain because we couldn't launch it. I still feel like not many people know about it. We couldn't make enough noise about it. And it would also mean the lockdown also meant that we would not be able to raise enough funds internally. So there was this heavy reliance on the fund from DSEC, and with budget cuts that just made matters worse. It was frustrating not to be able to raise funds, not to be able to have enough feet on our museums. I think I want to leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Molebeng. That's very useful. And I do hope that one day we do all get to see that new exhibit. So I'm sure the time hasn't been wasted. Okay, then let's move on to Erich Fanbag from the National Herbarium. Erich?
Thank you, Michelle. Everyone can hear me, right? Okay.
So your sound is a bit crackly. I don't know if there's anything you can do.
Speak up a bit. No, not.
Are you at Sand?
No, I'm at home.
Okay. I don't know what it could be that it's making this really crackly noise.
Is it as bad as me trying to rejoin?
Yeah. So I think it'll be better if you go out and then rejoin. It might work.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Erich. So I think then I'll do my session then. So my immediate thoughts related to COVID and the lockdown, I think similar to other people, I'd actually been watching this thing on international TV for a while, and I'd seen what was happening in other countries. And then, of course, it arrived, the virus arrived here, and there were predictions about what the numbers could be and how many people could potentially die from this virus. And I was worried. I was really worried. And in my institution, I kept waiting for some kind of guidance about what it would mean and what we would do and whether we would, what was a lockdown, what were we going to do, and nothing happened. And then even when the president made the announcement, the first sort of announcement that they put some restrictions on travel and they put some restrictions on gatherings, and I thought, we're moving to a complete lockdown. And what would it mean for us? But there was still nothing coming from the institution. And I was worried about my staff. I think I felt very protective over them and felt like I had a responsibility to look after them. And if you think back to then about how little we knew about what was going to happen, and so we really were making decisions or being expected to make decisions in a vacuum. We didn't know how fast this thing spread. We didn't know how severe it was. Like Lebo said, we didn't know if it was really as bad or if it was just an overreaction. There was lots of uncertainty. And so I just took a decision, and I don't want to encourage anybody to be a complete rebel. But I took a decision before the announcement that everything was going into a full lockdown, that my team would work from home. So the NSCF hub team and our data technicians sat in the gardens and made a decision that we'd all pack up our things and move back home. And that was important because quite a lot of the team weren't based in Gauteng. And what I didn't want to do was to go into a lockdown and have them trapped there away from their families. It also meant that we could sit quietly and peace, in relative calm and plan how we were going to do this. And the other decision I took was to allow them to use their phones for data, and that we'd refund them that. And that was also not yet policy at Sandy, so there was no guidance, but I just made that decision because I knew we had to stay in contact. Couldn't just let everybody disperse and go home and not have a way of staying in contact. And so I think those were the two biggest decisions, but there were risks to taking those decisions because they weren't yet policy in the institution. So it was a big risk. And then what has been the biggest frustration and challenge as a leader? So of course, I'm responsible for my team. I'm responsible for deliverables, but we operate in a bigger institution. And it's difficult waiting for guidance, waiting for leadership decisions above me, always having to do that. I think that's one of my big frustrations. If it's just up to me, I'll make the decisions, I'll take the risks, I'll do whatever, but I can't always do that. I don't operate in isolation. And I think that then the big challenge, and I think it's, it's around being, if you're a manager, you're responsible for the deliverables. The buck stops with you. You have to deliver, and we've got big funding from government, and they're not interested in the reasons why you couldn't achieve your targets. They want to see that you did. And so you have to make that happen. But you also have to, at the same time, balance that with the understanding that the staff many of them are going through a very difficult time. And so some of our staff have lost family members. They are struggling. They've been struggling working from home with children at home that they're looking after, or they're trying to teach, do the school teacher's job. And so how much pressure can you put on people that are struggling like that? But you've got to account to government for your deliverables, for the money we've taken, for the salaries that have been paid. And so it's balancing that. It's very, very difficult, I think, as a leader. All right, so I think I'll stop there, and then let's hope that Eric's sound is better. Do you want to go, Eric?
I hope it's much better. I joined with another network now. All right, great. Thanks, and sorry for the breakup. I just realized, looking at the date, we almost, if I can call it an anniversary, right in the moment where, you know, President Ramaphosa announced last year that we're going on a lockdown. So it's quite interesting reflecting back on that. So when it happened, I suddenly realized that we were not ready. We are going in lockdown and we are not ready to deal with it in the workplace. The virus is real and it's having a real impact on us, but we were not ready. I guess my early reaction was a lot of panic and concern. Like everyone, you were worried about your personal situation, but as a leader, I was also very concerned about my responsibility to my organization, my team, and of course the collections. In the early days, a lot of effort was spent on getting my family ready, prepared for lockdown, a lot of stocking of groceries, developing sanitizing regimes, planning for spending time at home. Initially, I also waited for guidance from my organization. I was hoping instruction will follow and that answers and solutions were going to be announced soon. It hardly ever happened. That made me realize that one will have to figure it out and that everyone feels as ill-prepared for it as I am. In the early days specifically, many people were kind of waiting to be told what to do. They were waiting for the president to speak, waiting for the organization to tell you what to do. To me today, that is not the true road to adjustment, just the cause of paralyzing fear, actually. Somewhat like a deer caught in a spotlight. I quickly realized that others are similarly waiting for me to tell them what to do, waiting for me to come up with all the answers. My team was sitting somewhere, not knowing what is expected from them. They last heard from our organization when they were told to go home until further notice. The government is telling them not to go to work, to stay at home, and that means being safe. But what is the employer expecting of us? Most collection-based staff, in our case, spend all their time working on the collection and need the collection to function at work. So when the message at last came that staff should work from home, it caused a lot of confusion to me and to staff. I was able to work as part of a management team that suddenly had to meet every second or third day to talk about the situation, but staff were literally cut off, unable to do anything but wait. And waiting is difficult. Waiting for a while, knowing that the end is near is one thing, but then came the shock. The lockdown is extended, and with that uncertainty grew. It caused a lot of discomfort in the team. Now, it was not only a matter of losing some time and productivity. Suddenly, the future became totally unknown, and the uncertainties grew. Realizing that waiting for others to find a solution is not the right way to take on this problem, I believe. One has to adapt personally, not wait for the organization to adapt. People, I've heard somewhere, people transform and adapt, not an organization. Initially, for me, it was a matter of ensuring that my team was all informed. I didn't want them to wander waiting for information. They didn't have laptops, most didn't have emails, so communicating the group was going to be very difficult. It was not going to be realistic to phone each one of them individually, considering it's quite a large team. So thank goodness for WhatsApp. And also thank goodness that some of our staff is very well connected amongst their colleagues. So we quickly got a WhatsApp group going, and I was at least able to send group messages to the entire team. But what do you communicate when you're also waiting to be told what to do? Even if I didn't have news, it was important to share something, anything. Today, it's probably my biggest concern about what happened then. I wish I made more of an effort. I felt disappointed in myself. I could have done something more, like a regular news flash, or whatever. As far as the activities at work is concerned, we started considering ways to pick up some productivity from home. which collection-based activities one can change and adapt to make it possible to make some progress at term. A lot of thought went into this, and the biggest challenge at that stage was to get permission for staff to go into the office to collect computers and work. Remember, at that stage, no one was allowed to travel if it was not for essential shopping, etc. So no non-essential staff were allowed to the workplace without a permit. The other challenge was very few staff had access to laptops, as I said, and almost none had access to connectivity or data. So the process of applying for permits to collect computers and work started. After waiting, requests to whittle down list to a number of people, waiting some more requests, and demands to change the request this way and that way, the request became so delayed that it had little impact, as we were told that we can return in June. So none of this was going to be easy. Needless to say, the hard lockdown, level 5, was probably the least productive period in the entire history of the Herbarium. To be tied down by the situation, a slow-moving organization, and very little guidance and direct decision-making has been the biggest frustration and challenge to me as a leader during the lockdown. It caused a lot of anger and sadness in me. So in my experience, I've kind of realized a few important things, and I need to give credit to the NSCF's organizational development program that really helped in this regard. We need to adapt, and we had to adapt fairly quickly. We cannot wait for instruction and guidance. Everyone is actually uncertain, and therefore we can't wait on each other. In communicating to staff, don't try and make sense and provide all the answers. Just keep it calm and display true acceptance of the situation. Kind of try to be a calmness in the storm. I've learned to really focus on the individual, even if it means a lot of time spent. I think understanding each person's fears, uncertainties of what they're going through helps a lot. I've also learned to share responsibilities. Don't take it all on yourself. There's a team and a wealth of colleagues, skilled at taking part of the responsibility. Use it. And then I think the biggest golden silver edge to the cloud is every challenge is a great opportunity for change, good change. I can just, as a closing remark, imagine that innovation, that the panic, isn't that strange? I can just imagine the level of innovation that this pandemic has had all over the world and will still unlock. Thank you. I'll leave you with that.
Thanks very much, Eric. Thank you for that very personal reflection on leadership during COVID. Okay, so that's the perspective and some insights into what leaders have had to go through over the past, and it is a year now. Yeah, I also thought about that. I've been working from home for a year. Yeah, so that's the perspective from a leader, somebody who has a responsibility. Mashlatsi, can we go on to the next slide? But let's now in groups, we'll break into groups of 4 or 5. I see there's 55 people, so it could be 10 groups of 5. And half the groups, so if you're in an odd number group, then this is the question you'll reflect on. What are the main lessons learned from COVID-19 about leadership in a time of crisis that we can share and remember? So Eric reflected on some of the lessons he'd learned, but what are some of the other lessons? And I've put up leaders here, and I'm sorry, they're all men. That doesn't mean we can only think about men as leaders, but these are the people who've been kind of in leadership positions. And then the even-numbered groups, this is what you're going to reflect on. What do leaders most need in a time of crisis? From others and or within themselves. And so for both of these questions, it doesn't matter if you're a manager or a worker, a staff member, you can reflect on leadership and you can think about the people, not only in your institution, but globally or nationally, who've had to show, so Andrew says, haircut is very important, yeah. So baby is like me, and he just is too scared to go to the hairdresser for a haircut because of COVID. But yeah, I mean, if you can't think of leadership in your own institution, then you can think globally or nationally. What are the main lessons learned about COVID that we can remember and share? What are the most, key points, 3 top points that we must remember about leadership? And then the other group will look at what do leaders most need in a time of crisis. So and it might be from other people, or it might be from within themselves. So it can be from the perspective of an observer or a manager. All right, so what we want is 3 points to come out of this. And if you've got 15 minutes for that discussion, give everybody a turn to express, and then when we come back into the plenary, we will we'll ask you to put your top 3 into the chat box, and we'll have a short discussion about it. All right, so Mashlatsi will put us in. Remember the top one, so I can probably, or Mashlatsi can put these into the chat box if we need. But I don't think it's really complicated. The odd number people, what are the main lessons learned? And the even numbered people, what do leaders need in a time of crisis? And it can be from within or from others. I'm hoping that we all back. And if the different groups can post their top 3 things into the chat box, I've put ours there. So we were group 7, so we had to do the first question. And what we said was, be prepared for disaster. So we weren't well prepared for this one. And have a plan to deal with it. Immediate decisive action from management. So you'd expect your leaders to take immediate decisive action, but don't assume that others will tell you what to do. And then for leadership to be open-minded. And so, you might not always be able to do everything according to the book or exactly in line with the way you normally do it. Okay, do any of the other groups want to raise anything on the first question? So any of the other odd-numbered groups? Anything that stood out as something that we can share and remember from what we've learned from COVID? You can just go, you don't have to wait for me. So group 1, on group's top 3, so this is also our question 1. Lessons we learned, leaders need to communicate. Yeah, so this was also a big thing, even when they are unsure what's going on. So even if you can't tell people exactly what the story is, just communicate with them. Two-way conversation so that leaders are also listening to the concerns and struggles of their staff. Communication will lead to understanding, right, and empathy. Be prepared for more change. So that's what our group had also said. So, I mean, as we were saying in our group, it might be a fire, it might be damage from student protests, it might be any number of disasters. So we're not well prepared for disasters. Group 8, question 2, we need good, competent support system, teamwork, and everybody step up. So this is what our leaders need. Good communication, understanding staff problems and depression tendencies, motivate people. Reporting, flexibility, so that's also what we had, help others accept things as they are and find solutions without panicking. Adaptability. So there's some common points that are coming out, and then another odd group number. Community can also provide answers, consultation with managers, communication, quick response. Group 3, adaptiveness, forecasting abilities. We wish we could always forecast. I'm sure every leader would love the ability to see into the future and see what's coming. Caring and being human and communication. Shlati says we've got 8 minutes left. We probably have less than that now. Shlati, 5 minutes. WhatsApp was essential, yeah, for us too. It's been essential. We still use it. Be adaptable, be kind to each other, adopt consultative leadership. Have an eye, but also an ear. That's also what's come out. Communicate, but also listen. First question, consistent communication. Common theme there. Build a circle of trust. Be grateful for what you have. Group 6, question 2, leaders need a sense of cooperation from us. We must be able to adapt. So leaders must be adaptable. Good and effective communication and plans. And then communication, patience, gratitude for what you have, keeping abreast with technology. Collective leadership with others, keeping track with latest information. So I think just looking at that, there's a few really common themes. I think the issue around communicating, so communicating with staff, but also listening to staff, so two-way thing. And then this whole thing about being prepared and being able to respond quickly and decisively. Being adaptable and flexible. And then, you know, leaders also need to be caring, being human, empathizing with staff. And it's interesting, I don't see courage there. So that's one thing. So I think leaders do need to have courage. It often takes a lot of courage to make the decisions. And you can reflect on some of those leaders I put up. Dr. Fauci, the Minister Mkhize, and the President of our country, Ramaphosa, and then Boris Johnson from the UK, and think about what characters they had. I nearly put Trump up there, but I just actually couldn't bring myself to do it. I just couldn't put his face on my presentation. But if you want to think about what not to do, then you can think about what Trump did and how he handled the pandemic, and what the consequences have been for his country. So yeah, no, I couldn't do Trump. I could do Boris. I was watching him last night, and that's another thing. He actually, last night, he admitted that he had made mistakes in his handling of it. And I think that's also an important thing that we have, that didn't come out, but it did come out in our reflection from the panel. That people said, I should have done it like this, or I wish I'd done that. And it's always easy to say that in hindsight, with hindsight. But I think it is important to reflect and think about if you're a leader, what you could have done differently. And learn from it, learn from your mistakes. All right, so Andrew says that Trump was trumped by COVID, yeah. And he beat it in 3 days, he told us repeatedly. That's another thing to remember, to be humble, to have humility as a leader, especially going through this. I mean, he was terrible. Yeah, so he's the most arrogant person. Trump is. All right, so thank you very much to the 3 panelists, to Eric, to Moleboheng, and to Bernard for your insights. And thank you to all of you for contributing to those group discussions. We'll keep a record of these points that have come out, because I think that they're important to share and to spread and prepare us for our next Let's hope it won't be as severe, but our next disaster, whatever may come at us, we'll be prepared. Okay, thanks everybody.
Welcome back, colleagues. I see we're already 100 participants back in the main Zoom room. Well done to everybody who managed to find their way to their parallel session and managed to find their way back again to our main Zoom room. We're just in our last check-out session for today, for our second day of our forum. And I'm just waiting for my colleague Des to join us.
Okay,
and
I'm here.
There you are.
Okay, so welcome back everybody. Sorry, my camera wasn't on there. So I think we won't have time to hear from you now. That will come into the check-in. But I think we just wanted to ask Fulu to do something on the photo competition. And then we'll do our closing out. I've got some kind of closing out round that we'll do without speaking. And then Ilse will end off with just sharing something else, an announcement, surprise. Okay, so I think Fulu, do you want to go first?
Sure. Des?
Yes.
Fulu will just also explain the Afro Story vouchers.
Okay, that's the last part.
Okay?
Yeah. Thanks, Chanel.
Okay, so the photo competition, thank you to everyone who entered after yesterday's complaint of mine. I was so happy to see those entries, though it was stressful trying to get them on so that everyone can see them. And can I just say, Hester, you are not making my job any easier, but I did enter your last minute entry. So thank you to everyone, even those that entered more specimens, even though they were just, it was just one person or, yeah, I appreciate that. So just so that you know what the prizes are for the competition, so for the second run-ups, so we are going to have second run-up, first run-up, and the winner. That's for each of the categories that we have. We have 4 categories. So this way we have more winners, right? I hope that excites you. So for the second run-ups, we're going to do a feature on your photo on our website, our newsletter, and where possible on your institution's website and their communication platforms. And then we also want to give you guys a special mug that is NSCF branded, something that you are going to remember us by, something that you remember the competition and the very first virtual forum by. The first runner-ups are going to get a branded framed photograph. So that specimen, that photo that you sent to us to enter, we're going to have it nicely printed and nicely put in a beautiful frame so that you can have it nicely framed or nicely put wherever you work or at home, or just something to pride yourself with. And then the other 2, the features and the NSCF branded mug. The winners get everything. So we have added here a book voucher. So we will give you a book, we'll give you that frame, we'll give you the features, you will give you the branded mug. That's it for the For the prizes, I hope those are exciting. They're exciting for me. So I hope they're also exciting for you. Who doesn't like free stuff though? But let me go into the entries now. Let me show you what entries we have currently. And remember, the entries are closing at 4 today. So put your entries in. Okay. This is for the most beautiful specimens category. So this is just to revive your interest or your, I wanted to say taste buds, but that has nothing to do with this. So sorry about that. But you can see now which ones you're most interested to vote for. Let's go to the next category, which is iconic. So for the iconic specimens, these are the ones that we have here. Like I said, there were more entries that were added in today. So I just haven't had time to look at the numbers, the actual numbers. But yeah, we have competition now. So thank you for that. The ugliest specimens, we still only have just 2. So there was only one more that was added, which was this warthog. And the person who entered the warthog said, as motivation, this made my day. She said, Mr. Ugly himself. So yeah, we have only 2 entries for the ugliest specimen. So I guess if we don't have any more, you can please, until 4, you have until 4 to add to that category. So please go ahead so that we have some competition. We can't just give away prizes without having some competition. And this is the last category, the funniest or the most funny looking specimens that you have in your collections. You can still add those. You can still add to this. So with this one, just something to note that when my husband saw that fish, he said, is that a Zulu fish? Just something that made me laugh about that. So maybe it does qualify as a funny specimen. That's it from me with the photo competition. Remember, it's going to close at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then at 5 o'clock, we're going to open the voting. You're going to be able to vote. The email that you're going to receive today is going to give you the links to vote. If you don't get that email, you can always go to our website, the page where we have the forum. I'm also going to share it in the chat. You can go to that page on our website. It has everything. Even if you're struggling to get into sessions, you don't have the registration sessions or anything like that, you can get those there. Even the recording of yesterday's forum, it's up there. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Fulu. So we thought before we do our closing activity, we'd like to hear from you how you experienced the previous session. So the parallel session that you've just come out of, one word that sums it up for you, or one phrase that sums it up for you. And maybe you can just put the session heading and then, you know, the word or the phrase that sums that session up for you. So we'll just give you a few minutes to do that in the chat. Okay, we're just seeing some words there: daunting, communication, leadership and collective wisdom. Risk to collections, always double check. Safety first, importance of communication. Leadership decisive, support. Any others? Yes, leadership courageous. Okay, inner peace. Okay. Great. Okay, you can still keep posting. Yes, time for leadership, the younger generation, responsiveness, vigilance is essential. Risk to the collections, eye-opener, okay, and also the indirect threats. Seems like there's an inside joke of marshmallows and pajamas. Okay. Yes, quite a few on the risks. Okay. Good. Growth. Okay, so I think, yes, I think we'll encourage you to keep putting that in the chat. But I think we're going to move to closure now. So for the closing, we wanted to encourage you to think of the experience of today and what it has, how it has left you feeling, what it has meant for you, how we are and where we are. Those were the two main sessions today. And also just starting off with the poem, the very powerful poem. So we'd like you to use a gesture, a body gesture, to describe your experience of the day. You can use your hands, you can use your whole body if you want to stand up and show us, but we're not asking for words. Those people who are unable to put videos on, maybe you might put a word in the chat, but we'd love you to all put your videos on. So just a gesture of how you experienced your feeling of today, where it's left you. And if you can just hold that gesture for us so that we can see everybody's together. Okay. Oh, okay. Beautiful. I'm just going to switch to my other screen. Wonderful. Wow. I hope somebody's taking a photo of this. I hope somebody's taking a picture. So beautiful to see all the gestures.
I love Terence. Go for it, Terence.
Lovely. Wonderful. Okay. So today was also about taking care of self and team. So what I'd like you to do is just to, if you can just sort of touch your heart. So that's the self. And then just touch the sides. So almost like we are now connecting to each other. So just put your hands up like that. So my hand is connected to Ian and Lemmy on my screen. And just this feeling of we are connected, even though it's virtual. Yes. Can you feel your partner's hand? Your heart to their hand? Yes? Okay. And take it back to your heart. Thank you. Good. So I think on that closing note, I'm going to ask Ilse to just share our last announcement.
Thank you, Desiree. That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And so tomorrow morning, we will start with our check-in round again. We will start with the creative offering again. And then we'll start with our check-in round where we will be able to reflect more on today, how we are, where we are. And then we'll move into caring for our for our institutions and caring for our practice tomorrow. So that is an exciting day ahead for us for tomorrow. But ending us off for today, we wanted to share a surprise. When we were planning for the forum, we were wrestling so much with this idea of the opportunity to meet each other, the opportunity to travel to an interesting place, the opportunity to have adventures. We were thinking about lockdown. We were thinking about people stuck in homes, stuck in flats, on their own. Sometimes with a home full of people and actually no space, no privacy, just for your own self and for your own thoughts and for your own peace of mind. And we were thinking, what could we offer to the members of the forum that could be a substitute for traveling to interesting lands, that could be a substitute for having amazing new adventures, that could be a substitute for making new friends, meeting new people, but that could also be a substitute for having your own peace of mind, your own quiet inner world, your own quiet inner imagination. And most importantly, what could connect us all as Africans? What could connect us all as Africans? And we found something that can do all of those things. And so with love from the NSCF to the NSCF, we are offering each of you a voucher, an app. It is an app called Afro Story. And Fulu will put the link in the chat for us. You can go to the Afro Story website and you can go and look at who they are and what they do. And Fulu will also put a link, a Google form in the chat. And your task is to respond to that Google form, to click on that Google form, and to complete your details on that Google form. And once you've completed your details on that Google form, Fulu will process those, and in the next day or two, hopefully before the end of the forum, before Friday afternoon, you will then receive your voucher. This voucher can be used only on smartphones, sadly, at this point. So they're not, I don't know if they're compatible with Kindles. I don't know if they're compatible with laptops. That is something that we still need to double check, but we do know that they are compatible with smartphones. And on this app called Afro Story, you will receive 50 books by 50 African authors for you to enjoy in the next couple of months ahead. And we even had, oh, that's a good one, Alex. Alex, did everybody see Alex's little dance? And we even had fantasies of an NSCF book club starting up or NSCF reading groups starting up in the different institutions, and what we can all share, what we can all learn, how we can all grow together as we read and grow and share. So we hope you are very excited about that, as excited as we were, and we wish you lots of love and community and solidarity, and also some beautiful, peaceful inner times with your 50 books by 50 African authors for 2021 as an honoring of your presence and your participation in the 2021 NSCF Forum. So that is it from us. Lots of lovely little hearts, lots of clapping. Yeah. Any final comments, Des or Chanel, before we close the meeting for today?
I'm good.
You're
Since
good?
we took time yesterday, we can give time today.
Great. Chanel, all good from you? Fantastic. We'll see you all tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. We will have once again a choice of parallel sessions in the morning, and before tea and after tea we'll have 2 main parallel sessions, one around research and one around data. In the morning, we've got our lovely options. We've got the options around the transformation case studies, the Unsung Heroes exhibition. We have, oh, I'm going blank. I know we have, oh, going black would have been interesting. We have a courageous conversation for people who feel that they want to make use of that space. And then there is one more. Can somebody help me out?
So there's 2 more. There's
2 more.
The KZN Herbarium transformation case study, and then the innovations in collection care.
Innovations in collection care. Fantastic. So once again, spoilt for choice. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely afternoon.